2 at Kendall Street. That's a brand new 3-bedroom house. That's out on level land with 10 feet of sand and gravel where we didn't see any water. It's really easy job. The issue that I saw is they decided to put that thing with the top of the SAS, within a foot of the surface, which means they were in the topsoil and the subsoil. So that's going to requires them to get some fill. But that one is designed, even though it's a 440-gallon load, designed for 592 gallons a day. It's a double compartment, 1,500-gallon tank with an outlet filter on it. So it's a nice, that part of it's nice. He's got 4 3-foot by 40-foot long trenches with 12 inches of sidewall and greater than 5 feet of water separation with the 10-foot plus water table. Reserve areas in between them. It's out in the middle of the woods, so there's no issues with wells or wetlands, and pretty straightforward. And my suggestion is that we approve the system subject to the fill regulations, although Neil said he was going to submit a new drawing with the 4 trenches called out instead of 3 and a trench permit.
He dropped the drawing off today.
He did. Okay, and the review is complete with that. The fee is paid, the $200. So I think we're in good shape with that. Lee and Herb, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't see any issue at all.
I think it should go forward.
Okay, I do too, Colleen. So that'll be approved. It is approved when Neil shows up. If we could start going through our items, minutes for June 22nd. I did submit changes. Herb, I saw you made a comment. What, Herb and Lee, what do you think of those?
I made my comment that I accepted those changes. So I've already commented. Yeah.
Okay, Lee, how about you? Okay,
All
so
good.
we approve those. We approve those. For Colleen's timesheets, we have 2 of them because we switched the fiscal year. So we've got one that's got 57 hours for June 30th and one that's 13. So the 2-week period is the standard 70 hours. Herb, Lee, do you have issues with either of those?
Everything should be fine with that from my perspective.
57 and 13 make 70.
Yes. So Colleen, sounds like we approved that.
Okay, thanks.
You've got my year's bills split into 2. One is inspections, Colleen, and one is bills. So for my inspection, I had $3,430, and I listed them. I submitted them.
Mm-hmm.
Herb and Lee?
Yeah, all good, all fine.
I'm not sure about the deep hole on 4721. No, I'm just.
Okay, so we approve those, Colleen.
Okay.
What I didn't do is I didn't charge for stuff, all these meetings and stuff. I did inspections and not meetings. I don't think you guys have been doing that either. So anyways, it's just a standard. Next thing I have is, is money turnover sheet, two of these again. The first one is for, because of the split year. First one is for $205 and it's all for Board of Health permits. And the second one is for $140 for, and it's got 120 for Board of Health permits and $20 for licenses. Herb and Lee, what do you say about those two?
I'm all for them.
Lee?
Everything should be fine.
Okay, I am for both also, Colleen, so they're both approved.
Okay,
The next one is for my mileage and for 8520 and my Zoom meetings. I did turn in copies of all of the receipts for the Zoom meetings.
Sure.
Herb and Lee, that's $276.36.
Okay.
Okay, Colleen, me too, that's approved.
okay,
The next two that we have, one after the other, is Herb, as you pointed out at the last meeting, you didn't understand why the plumbing inspector was in fact the plumbing inspector and the assistant was the assistant. When Colleen looked that up, it's because we hadn't appointed him in a long time. So what Colleen has done is come up with an appointment for Fred Marion for the plumbing inspector for 3 years. And Herb and Lee, what do you think about it?
Well, could another plumber say we're showing favoritism?
In the past, I can just tell you how we did it in the past is that it never went out to open bid. I don't believe it can. It's certainly been this way. I can't remember who was on Herb before Vic Gerard, but let's say it's at least 25 years that the board just appoints these guys. And the animal inspector ends up being the same way. What we do know is we don't have anybody else that's asked to do it.
I think that is probably the germane issue, and that would be the point on which I would say, let's move ahead.
Lee, how about you?
Yeah, if no one else showed any interest, then we should probably just get it done and move on.
Okay, I feel the same way, Colleen, so you can sign that that's approved, we've appointed him. There's the same
Okay.
issue with Mike McCain, who works, a much lower time as just his assistant. Herb and Lee,
Sure.
me too.
okay,
So that's approved, Colleen, and you can issue those.
Okay.
Then, what, Colleen?
okay, thank you.
Okay. The next one I have is Colleen's contract. Colleen made a couple corrections that Chris has left in because looks like he copied his assistant's contract, and that's been changed. When I talked to Colleen about it, Colleen said she was fine with this 3-year appointment. And Herb and Lee, what do you see?
I have no issue whatsoever with Colleen's contract. I think she's doing a really good job. My only question out of poor memory is, when did we talk about this Friday afternoon extra time that Colleen had to put in? And I think we gave it I don't know, a couple of months to see what was going to occur during that time slot. I don't know where we are with that thing.
Colleen was going to
Remember?
keep track of it, but the way I look at it, I think it's, in one case we deal with the contract, and the other is we're dealing with the details of her work schedule. In my view,
Okay,
they're
okay.
different.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I get it. So yeah, the contract part from my perspective is great. But maybe later on we could just refresh where we are with that extra hour on Fridays.
Well, I guess my comment is simplistic. I can't imagine for an hourly position that you have to write a contract that goes on and on and on. Maybe this is small town bureaucraties. I don't know. I've hired so many people in my time in universities, and we never had contracts like this. So I think I looked at that and said, this is just bloviated nonsense. Right tracks that go on endlessly.
The only thing
my comment.
that triggered this, Herb, was that Colleen's pay scale is out of whack with, or her position scale is out of whack with what the open market is paying for Colleen's services. And so this contract was a way to get around that.
Okay, well, I think there would have been a much simpler way to get around it. But I would say that I agree with Lee's comment that I think Colleen is doing a very good job. So contract be damned, whatever it takes. If that's what we need, then I'm all for it.
And I certainly am too, Colleen, and for sure, it looks like the contract has us doing reviews with you and goal settings, and this stuff will come up, but there is no doubt we were so fortunate to find someone that is as skilled and motivated as you going through this horrible time. And I feel fortunate to have you on board for sure. So
Well,
it
thank
is
you very
approved.
much.
You can
Thank you.
sign it for us. And
Okay.
so it's done in record. The Deerbrook, 17 Deerbrook, that looks like it's just a D-box, an app permit for a 2-compartment, 1,500-gallon tank in a D-box at 17 Deerbrook. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
Why not?
It must be a result of a Title V failure, right?
That's correct.
Herb, are you okay with it?
I said I was.
Okay, I missed it. And I am too. So Colleen,
Okay.
that's approved. The
Okay,
next one is a certificate of compliance for 160 Carver Street. That's old. This thing
yes,
is
it is.
2.5 years old.
Well, they started looking for it, and I don't have it anywhere, so I told, I think it was Greg Everson that was originally asking me about it, and I said, well, it's not in the file, I don't know. So they sent me something with the installer and the engineer's signature, and wanted board to sign off, so I don't know if you remember, this property, but.
My
Was
guess
this,
is
is this new
Go ahead, Lee.
construction? Or was this a new lot, or was this a repair?
says a
Does it
new
say,
system.
Colleen?
It was
New
new,
system.
I think. Right.
The only one I can recall up there was, I think it was under Banus, the concrete. His son.
Oh,
But
I know where this,
way back on the right-hand side, way up in the woods. If that's, I'm guessing this whole thing. I don't even know for sure.
huh. How do we get this thing? How do we resolve it?
Well, let me grab a street quickly and see if that's right address. Yeah, please. Yeah, 160, according to the street list, is in fact James and Carla Banus, which is that new house way up in the woods. I don't even recall who did the engineering on that. I know it's in, but that's a long time ago.
Well, this says it was Stover. Paul Sticepeck and Bob Stover.
Okay, well, I guess to be fair to everybody, we should probably, well, my suggestion would be to get a hold of Bob Stover if he's still around and see what he's got for notes on this property. I was on site several times, but that was a long time ago.
Colleen, can you ask Bob to look it up and make an appointment with us so we can act on this?
Who submitted this?
Greg Everson was looking for it, and I think there's a closing that they're looking for this. The closing must be coming up. I'm not sure when it is, but yeah, you want Bob Stover to come to the next meeting?
My recollection was that Greg Everson was not the installer on this property.
No, in fact, it says Gary Gurton.
Yep.
Huh,
Something's off here.
yeah, I don't know why Greg was asking about it, but he was the one, I think, that sent me an email. And then there was a realtor looking for it. I think, so.
So so that being said, is the brand new house being being put on the market then? I mean, if Greg did a Title V on it, we need a copy of that. Otherwise, none of it makes any sense to me.
I'm
Who-
not sure. I don't know why the closing would be now if it was done a few years ago. I'm not sure.
Right. Because they would have had to go through the banking, I'm guessing, at that point in time. So none of
Sure.
this makes any sense to me.
No.
let's go in two directions. One, Colleen, if you can look at Lee's bills for somewhere around this time, that
Okay.
it looks like Over signed off of it on 11/26/2018. So Lee must have, well, you would think Lee inspected it. So see if there's an inspection for a final, but also ask Bob Stover to get in touch with us. Or I guess the third thing that you could do is find out who asked us to sign this, but I guess if Stover signed off on this, then if we look and see if we've done a final and Stover gets in touch with us, we ought to be able to close on the thing anyways.
That's what I asked a while ago. Who submitted this to us? Was it Greg
So
Everson?
Colleen, maybe you can find that out too.
Well, Greg was asking about it and I said, I had nothing in the file. So then he sent it to me, signed. So I don't know where, and a realtor today was asking me about it. And I said, well, it's got to go to a meeting, so I'm not sure. I'll have to talk to them tomorrow. But I'll get a hold of Bob Stover and maybe he can talk to Lee and I'll look up Lee's bills on that.
Okay. It sounds as though, without knowing the details, it sounds as though the original parties may be going their separate ways from that house. But it was, I do recall it was a very long installation process due to weather and all sorts of landscaping issues. Massive rocks were all over that property, and things were having to be moved. And whether or not Bob Stover was still on board or never got paid, there's, that's speculation.
But I think following up on what Herb asked, we ought to get, if it is Greg Everson, find out why he's in the middle, what he's trying to accomplish here as well. So if we get
Right.
those three items, maybe we can figure out what's going on.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, Herb made a good point.
Okay. The next one that I have, Neil is still not with us, but I've got 25 Pine Brook Circle, Greg Everson passes. Is that something that we can just receive?
Yes, everything up there is fine. All those houses must be on the community system, so it should be no issue. The components were a satisfactory condition at the time.
Okay. Herb, are you okay with that?
Yes, I assume we're just stamping these received and Colleen is signing for us.
I'm initialing them and yes. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
The next thing that we have, well, let's do Brusso's. That's a Brusso's Liquor Mart smoking violation. There are a couple issues that I wanted to bring up that Herb has indicated correctly that this is not an issue with the Granby Board of Health at this point. It's a violation of a state law. There was an enforcement check that they failed, that the new law is now saying for a first violation, it's $1,000. And the two levels of concern that I had is one, to the best of my knowledge, the board has never authorized Colleen or Jean to be the agent for the board for sending out notice of the fines. The other is that I thought that when you get into $1,000 fines, $2,000 fines, loss of licenses, that those were big enough items that I thought our board should be the one that at least discusses the situation. But go ahead and Lee, are you up to date on this enforcement check
Yeah,
that occurred?
yes. Yeah, I did read the emails last week, late last week. I guess I don't know when this occurs, and maybe it doesn't matter, but this enforcement is saying the Board of Health is, you know, and I get the enforcement part of it and the relationship. Does the town of Granby, and maybe it doesn't matter, but does the town of Granby get that money, or does the enforcement agency get that money? Is there an appeals process for the license holder, or is it just, you know, written in stone? You sold to an underage person and it's done.
The process that's defined in the paperwork, and as I recall, when we did this before, is that the money the check goes to the town of Granby.
Okay.
But there is an appeals procedure, and that, in fact, in one or two other cases, we've had people appear before us. But the appeals procedure is that they come to us. And I think that's the end.
Okay.
But I don't see this, the way this is written, I don't see that once the violation has occurred and documented, I don't see that we have a choice as to whether we follow the state law.
Why should we want to have a choice? These people clearly violated the state law. They have the law tacked up in their shop and they violated it.
I agree with you.
It's prima facie. I don't see any reason to discuss this further. If they want to appeal, let them appeal. They've violated the state law that they have posted in their shop.
I agree with that 100%. Lee, what is your thought?
Yeah. No argument. I haven't heard of one of these things in so long. I had forgotten how the whole thing worked. This disappeared off the planet for months, or maybe 18 months or so, until the last time I thought it was at Cumberland Farms, but it doesn't really matter. If Herb is right, if they broke the law that they have been made aware of, and they have a period of time to appeal or not appeal, then they have to cut a check and that's the end of it.
Yeah. So the answer is the three of us agree 100%, Colleen, that you send it out. At this point, since the board just said it, you should send it out with our three names.
Okay,
There are some issues with and I'm gonna have to learn about it because it looks like the second and third violations are way different, that they can occur now in 3 years, but there are suspensions that I don't know how we determine the suspension level. I just don't know. But do we as a board, with fines that are this heavy, do we want to at least have it discussed like we just discussed it at these meetings, or do we want to have Colleen just authorize her to send them out? But again, on the second violation, absolutely requires some kind of board decision on how much the license gets suspended for.
So when was the last time you discussed this at a Board of Health meeting? Not since I've
Certainly
been.
before you came on.
Correct. So this is an unusual occurrence. Why do you want to make policy about how to handle a rare occurrence? I would rather have an ad hoc discussion about it. These people clearly violated state law. And I think, Colleen, you ought to make very clear that they violated the state law as posted in their shop, not a Granby law, a state of Massachusetts law.
mhm,
It does say that in the notice, in the letter.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's going to
think
come
we're
back
all-
to you nasty people on the Board of Health are somehow doing something bad to us.
Maybe
No, we're
maybe you're right on the cover letter that goes through that to point out that this is a violation of a state law, not a Granby Board of Health regulation.
correct. Correct. Otherwise, they're going to be in our face saying, why are you all fining us $1,000? Well, we're not.
mhm.
So just to face a cover letter with that,
Okay,
but Herb, I offer what you said is exactly right. If this thing only occurs every couple of years, then it ought to come up in front of our meeting. And if it comes up every couple of years, we don't need a procedure. It's just unusual. And when it comes up, we're going to talk about it and get it done.
Correct. That would be my position.
I support that. Lee, what do you think?
Yeah, no issues, everything's fine. Yep.
Okay, then that's fine. We'll do it. So the next one, we've got two of them, two issues with the issue with Northampton and with Amherst. It looks like the Amherst one seems to be straightforward, that the selectmen are gonna act on it tonight, hopefully. And then once you get that letter, Colleen, we've authorized you to sign the letter for us. So it goes out.
oh, for Northampton, yeah,
Yeah, that one is, I think, just waiting for the select board.
select board, yeah.
And then
You
that's,
said Amherst. You said Amherst, Dick.
I'm
I think
sorry.
you meant.
I meant
Correct.
Northampton. I'm
Correct.
sorry. Now, Amherst, we said we were going to come back. And you sent something out, Herb, that yesterday or today, saying that Emma said there are towns that are linking up with multiple other towns.
Yes, and I didn't query her as to which towns they were. My position is it's going to be a whole lot easier to be in the beginning than to try and get in later. I think as a small, poorly equipped and poorly endowed town, we need all the help we can get. Northampton is going to provide some help. Amherst could provide some help. The quid for that quo, I think, is very small. I don't know what it is, but I suspect it's going to be very small. And there's two different issues with Amherst, as you're well aware. One of them is tracking, and one of them is the shared service issue. And even if we didn't want to be involved with shared services, what about tracking? You say, well, South Hadley gives us good service. My sense of that is not that at all. My sense is that we get very little from South Hadley because there's very little responsiveness from my perspective from Sharon Hart. I don't know Sharon Hart. I haven't had meetings with Sharon Hart, but she seems singularly unresponsive to anything except her local parochial stuff. So I'd like to be aligned with someone other than South Hadley.
I don't have the same viewpoint as Sharon Hart as you, Herb, but I'm just saying I don't have that viewpoint. But where I'm looking at several different levels of involvement. If we were looking for someone to send a letter of support saying we'd be interested in that service, I don't have a problem with that. If we are ending up with something that we've got to be in a steering group and a board of directors thing like the state defined for shared services, I'm not in for that. I'm not going to do it. And if you were to say you're going to do it, I guess that would be one thing. But again, my view is going with too many places at the same time dilutes our effort too much. But if you are looking, Herb, that a letter of support like the one that Sharon sent to Emma, I don't have an issue with sending a letter saying we would like to use that service.
Which service? The shared
The
service?
tracking. The tracking one.
Yes, the tracking.
See what you haven't said anything.
Well, my recollection is that the past, most of the tracking and data came out of South Hadley. And I don't know, and this isn't the right comment, but I don't know how much of it was flawed or was really great or was lacking. Now, does Northampton does the tracking as well, and they have other services that we could benefit from. Are we going to be in that situation? Are we thinking we're going to be an equal player and not a pawn on the chessboard because we're a small community with these guys?
No, we're not going to be an equal player with Northampton or Amherst or any much larger town. No. What do we have to offer? Not much.
Well, we're trying to play the game that the state is throwing at us, and we're trying to hook up with somebody to get us in. And yeah, we don't have much to bring to the table, admittedly.
Well, I guess I would take issue with your comment that playing the game. I'm not playing any game. I'm trying to find a way to improve health outcomes in our town. I'm not playing a game. I'm trying to find services that would be useful to our residents. I'm trying to find a way to improve the general health of the population.
Right.
And Dick's point about, excuse me, just one more comment. And Dick's comment about Sharon Hart, well, he knows Sharon Hart, and I made it very clear that I don't. So I'm making an opinion that's not a personal opinion, it's from a distance opinion. And that could be very different than Dick's opinion. And I respect that.
Sure.
And I do as well. I can't,
Yeah, I
if
think we're all...
it helps at all, I did talk to Sharon. I think two things about it, that Sharon did provide service that we used on the tracking. However, she provided it out of a grant that they applied for and received. And Sharon told me that she is not intending to apply for this grant to do tracking to make up for what the state is not going to do. So from where Herb is going, maybe not knowing that, but the service that we were getting out of Sharon may not be available to us at all on this next round through. What we do know is she is not applying for the money to pay for that. So if we were, again, I would not have an issue sending a letter to Emma saying that we are interested in using her tracking services. Lee, what are you thinking that? But again, I'm splitting that at least in my mind that this isn't a shared services program. This is actually a separate program that the state is funding because they're going out of the tracking business.
And you're referring right now to South Hadley.
No, I'm talking about, there is a bunch of money that the state has allocated for towns to absorb the tracking that the state was doing, the contact tracing. And Emma is in fact going after some of that money, and Sharon is not.
Okay. Do we know where Northampton is in this appeals process for the money for this type of service?
I don't have that information, Lee.
Okay.
I don't have it. I don't have it either. And, but what Herb is pointing out is it's different than the shared services.
Right, separate grant.
And Emma is asking us whether we want to be involved in that. My answer to that is yes.
I'd propose that we do that. Herb, I would agree with that.
I would agree. I would agree. Yep.
Okay, then the three of us have agreed and we tell Emma that we are interested. So Colleen, if you can make that one happen.
Okay.
I believe I
Herb, do
copied
you
you.
want to? Go
I
ahead. Herb.
believe I copied you on the last response from Emma, Colleen.
Yes, I saw that. Mhm.
I think you should respond to her that the board is in fact interested in that.
Okay.
Herb, do you want to get in touch with Emma directly just to let her know that it's coming?
Yes, I will do that.
That makes sense. Okay. Colleen, you're carrying the Dollar General 4-bays. This is a tickler for us. Oh, by the way, before I forget it, and I'm afraid I will, for all of our bills, Herb, Lee, Colleen, to Tom Fleabot, the plumbing guys, to let them know that they have to get the bills in this month so we can act on them at our next meeting, and we don't have any, we're not encumbering anything. So if they don't get the bills in, the money isn't going to get paid.
Yeah, I've
Okay.
emailed everybody once. I'm gonna remind them this week.
All right. Thank you.
So Dollar General, is there anything have you heard anything, Colleen, from Dollar General?
No, and I emailed the district manager, I think before the long weekend, and I have not heard anything back yet.
I would respectfully submit that you should email them again.
Yes, okay.
They are a community nuisance.
Mhm.
I agree. You should do that. Lee, what do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, this is something that we were afraid of from day one, and unfortunately, the fears have come true.
So they'll at least be knowing. COVID issues. What do we have for other COVID issues?
I think the major COVID issue is to cross your fingers and keep your head down. Hope for the best.
Yeah, I got a call from McDuffie, and they just in passing said if we wanted to use them for anything in terms of trying to get people to get vaccinated, if we wanted to put signs on their property or whatever, that they would support us. But what I was going to point out, a sad thing to you guys, if you look at the data from last year at this time, that given that things were very different in terms of the disease, but the data was not very different up until September, while people were spread out, and we're a little lower than we were a year ago, but only a little. And once you're down near zero, near zero is near zero. So what Herb keeps saying, I fear he's so correct. But
Virtually,
yes, Herb.
virtually all states in New England have, not virtually, all New England states have greater than 70% of their adult population who have gotten at least one immunization. Unfortunately, there's a huge number of states that are in the 40% range. And I don't know what else we can say. We can shake our head and we can lament and we can not go to those states perhaps. But New England is doing fairly well.
Yeah. So, and as Herb pointed out, when I looked at our magic town of Orleans, that's about the same size as ours, as Colleen found out, and we couldn't understand why the Council on Aging and Orleans and Williamsburg were so important, is, lo and behold, Orleans median is about 65 years old for age, and ours is about 42.
Yeah. So they're apples and oranges when it comes to comparison. And that's why you got to be so careful on these comparisons.
Yep. Yep. So
Now there is a new director in our council, at our Council on Aging. Is that correct?
Well, someone was filling in, right?
Is Chloe still there? Because her name is gone from their literature.
Well, she was out.
oh,
I don't know. She was out on a medical issue. That I know. I don't know if she is coming back. Maybe that is a change. I don't know.
Well, maybe the current woman is an interim director. I'm not sure, but Chloe's name is not on the masthead.
yeah.
Yeah, Lisa was filling in for her. I know that.
Okay.
So, but yeah.
All right.
So email, mails, phone calls, other business. What do we have? If nothing,
I don't have anything else. I don't have anything else. Unless you want to talk about my Friday afternoon.
well, what is your data saying?
Well, so I've been keeping track and I've gotten very few phone calls or, I mean, no one comes because we close at noon. So there's very little going on afternoon time on Fridays. Now,
So do you have a record
they-
of phone calls? Because that was the issue.
I do. Yeah, I do have a record of phone calls, and there's probably since March, I mean, there's been maybe 3 phone calls. I mean, just not too many. No, not too many at all.
Why don't you pull them together? Tell
Mhm.
us what the days were, what the times were, and if you
Okay.
can, what the subject was. And then, and why don't you send it out to us before the next meeting? And
Okay,
we will be in a spot it will be very measurable.
okay, sure.
I have a simpler suggestion. At the time that's appropriate to leave, I think the phones ought to be transferred over to Chairman Bombardier's number.
That's what happens when she goes anyways.
Well, then
Good luck with
I
that
think
one,
it's
Herb.
very appropriate, and the thing speaks for itself. Res ipsa loquitur.
Yeah.
So there it is.
Well, don't forget, this was Chris Martin's idea, so I think we should give somebody his cell phone for weekend coverage as well.
Oh,
Well,
well, if it was
let's
Chris
just-
Martin's idea, then transfer it to Chris Martin's number.
yeah. Well, at least let's see what the data says first before we do it.
Okay,
And then because that way we're not dealing with, well, not many. That when we start saying this is what they were, how many, and this when it was,
sure.
then we've got data that says this is an absolute waste of time.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
it's a little benefit to the town and a big loss to Colleen. And I think we shouldn't do those kind of things.
Correctamente.
So if that's the case, then we should probably be able to end this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So
Okay.
everybody have a nice night.
Thank you. You
Good
too.
night, folks.